Hey everybody, this is Professor Jason Snart. I'm your instructor for our online creative writing course, which is just starting today. I'm recording this on Wednesday morning, January 14th, which is the start of our spring term here. So welcome to the course. This is probably one of the first things that you're seeing. And so one of the things that you'll notice right away about the way the course is set up and what I'll really try to encourage here is before you concern yourself too much with the content of the course or getting into the work or even the grading and all of that, the sort of technical components of things, is to really try to get a feel for how the course is laid out. Especially for the online environment where so much of what happens, I mean almost everything that happens, is kind of mediated through Blackboard and of course through the way in which I've organized the course in terms of where the units are, where the due dates are, and all that kind of stuff. Before jumping into the actual content stuff, it's really important to get a sense of just sort of like the overall organization. So after you watch this, if you haven't already, I'm really going to encourage you to just sort of click through all of the links in our Blackboard menu here. I'm just looking at it right now. So the first one, which will always pop up, is the announcements. That's kind of what you're looking at now. I'll do these video things sort of throughout the term. One of the things that I'm really big on is creating that sense of sort of connection, that face-to-face feel, even though it's an online class. I'll talk about that in a second. So the next link is the textbook link. It'll show what textbook you need for the class. It's pretty straightforward. There's a student homepages link, which is probably empty or sort of minimally populated as I'm looking at it now. That's tied to Unit 1. But before you get into the units, you can see Unit 1, Unit 2, the whole list here. Before you dive into Unit 1, make sure you spend some time and actually go through the rest of the links in that course menu. You don't have to like process all the information or have it sort of like perfectly memorized or anything like that. But I do think it's important that you know sort of where, generally speaking, stuff is. Our course is hopefully as transparent as possible in terms of sort of the mechanics of how it operates. Again, one of the things that, in addition to that sense of sort of community and connection that we can do in an online class, one of the things I'm really sensitive to is how important, just like basic organization is in terms of the course setup on my part, to really facilitate making it as navigable and usable from your end as possible, so that even if you struggle with the content, and maybe you won't, maybe you will, you're not struggling just with like, where do I click, where do I find stuff? Hopefully it's laid out in a way that kind of makes sense, or even if you don't get it right away, it doesn't take long to click in. Pretty simple. We have a list of due dates. They're all tied to those units that we're working through. Each of the units has assignments built in, whether they're kind of writing assignments or like our first unit is a basic kind of introduce yourself unit. So hopefully the basic layout of the course isn't too hard for you to get hold of, but that is really the first thing that I want you to feel comfortable with, or at least make an attempt at feeling comfortable. Sometimes it does take a little while. There's my contact information in there. There's resources for like the library. There's Blackboard help if you're having technical problems. There's obviously stuff about our course as far as the grades go. Again, the textbook info, all of that stuff you sort of need to get going. Our first due date then is Monday, January 19th, which is, you know, a few days away. But again, if you have other courses that are starting, it's sort of like a stressful time of the semester, just getting, again, not the content piece for any particular course, but just like getting your sort of schedule set and figuring out what to do when and where stuff is and all that. So those days sort of evaporate seemingly pretty quickly, if you ask me anyway. Okay. So the other thing then, so I've made an effort to really make our course as sort of user-friendly as possible. There's no perfect course out there, I think, but hopefully you can see how the work we're doing is assigned, where to go to find it, to do it, simple enough, the due dates, all that kind of stuff. And obviously, if you have questions or concerns, or you're not 100% sure, by all means, like, reach out to me, send me an email. You can find me on Skype is a great way to, like, instant message back and forth. So there's lots of ways to get in touch with me. So in addition to the organizational piece, the other thing that I'm really conscious of, especially in the online environment, is not for it to feel like I'm this disembodied thing out there in an office somewhere, and you are out there wherever you are, and you end up doing this sort of like what feels like a correspondence course. You read some static stuff in the course, you do a little assignment, and you send it in to some person somewhere with a name, that's me, and I like grade it, and it's just this really like kind of uninspired, barely connection between two people, disembodied, not even faces somewhere. So I've made an effort to make our course feel a lot more like a kind of class experience. So you'll have lots of opportunities to interact with me, but also with your classmates. So this isn't really it's not self-paced, it's not really an individualized thing where you just do your own thing and everyone else does their own thing. There's lots of opportunities for collaboration, for sharing your work with people. Most of the work, feedback you get on your creative writing work will actually come from your peers in the class, as opposed to just me always giving you lots of feedback. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit later as we go forward. And it's also something that you'll see reflected, this idea of sort of creating a class community, in our very first unit. So the very first things I'm having you do have very little to do with creative writing per se. You'll notice that the two major assignments within Unit 1 are to create your student homepage, which is all done through Blackboard. I sort of walk you through the steps you need to, like, where to click and all that kind of stuff. And obviously I'm encouraging you to complete your own, but also to look at other people's. And so a big part of the homepage is having you attach an image of yourself, or maybe you even are a little more ambitious and want to do a video or something, kind of like I'm doing here. You can plunk it right into Blackboard, and it's a great way for us to feel like, oh, there's actually other human beings out there doing this class too. So when you do have the opportunity to interact via, say, a discussion board, which is primarily text-based, you can still sort of picture those people or have a sense of who they are, not just this name on a discussion board list, right? So it's really important that you attach that picture and that it shows up as a picture in your homepage, not just as an attached file that then somebody has to click on to open, and it's just a hassle. So make sure you do that piece right. Once that unit's done, or that assignment's done, we'll have a really nice collection of these sort of introductory little pages that everybody's done. You express your interests, you just say something about yourself, very informal. We get to see people. Again, doesn't have to be like anything official or formal or whatever. If you do a group shot, make sure you tell us which one's you. Don't post a picture of like your pet, unless your pet is doing the work for you. Probably not going to happen, but these are things that I've seen happen because I think people forget that, oh yeah, I'm posting a picture of me so that people know what I look like or what I'm interested in. If you have any questions again about that or concerns about your image up there, by all means be in touch with me. So again, a very kind of informal way to get the ball rolling for our class. The other assignment that's in Unit 1 is an introductions discussion board. So yes, you're kind of duplicating the whole introduce yourself piece. Don't just cut and paste the same text, but this is a nice opportunity to use the discussion board tool if you've never done that in Blackboard before, in a very low stakes, informal kind of way. So you're not having to like write something as part of our creative writing course, like an exercise or a short story or whatever, and figure out how the discussion board works at the same time. So it sort of duplicates the whole introduce yourself piece, but it's sort of intentional. It gives you the chance to use this discussion board tool, which is going to really figure pretty prominently in our course right off the bat. So again, you can sort of test it out, and it's a low stakes kind of informal way of doing that. There's also a little direction in Unit 1 to a brief survey that I've put together that I like to collect from students, just about what your sense of an online class is. Do you feel prepared? Are there any concerns that you've got, and all that kind of thing. And that's about it. That kind of gets the ball rolling. So you'll notice, like in Unit 1, as in a couple of units, there's not just like one basic thing to do. There's a couple of different things. So again, time management is hugely important. So sometimes it pays to look at the unit as a whole and then figure out, okay, I'll do this piece, on Tuesday or whatever, works for you. And not feel obliged to do the whole thing all at once. It's not like a class where you have to sit for that 50-minute or hour and 15 or whatever it happens to be. The nice part about the online environment is you're not locked into those particular chunks of time. I think the work required for an online course isn't less necessarily than for a face-to-face course. In fact, it might be more in some ways, but it can often happen when it's most convenient for you, which is the benefit of it, really. The flip side of that, of course, is that it falls to you because you're not required to sit in a class Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 9:50. That's sort of imposed upon you in the face-to-face environment. Online, you have to take that responsibility on and make sure that you block out time. And I always suggest to students, if I could require it, I would, to, however you plan your calendar, if you have a day planner or on your phone or whatever method you use, to actually block out time for your online classes, whatever. So it's not just something that, okay, after I finish the things that are like work is scheduled for me, my face-to-face classes are scheduled for me, I have to be there at a particular time, I'll just do my online stuff when this magical free time opens up in your life. And of course, that ain't going to happen, right? So make sure you officially schedule time to work on your online stuff. Sometimes for our course that means doing stuff kind of like directly online, and sometimes it means making space to be a writer, to actually sit down at the computer and write, to brainstorm, to just sort of think of ideas. You really do have to be sort of strict with yourself about scheduling those chunks of time. Otherwise, of course, you're going to do all the things that are already scheduled and then all the other things, the laundry, and you got to go to the library and pick up this and do that. And then all of a sudden you have like 2 minutes at 11:57 p.m. to do the work that's due, at 11:59. And I can see those dates and times stamped by Blackboard on the work that you're doing. So, you really have to be sort of conscious of managing your time, but also being aware of, like, I can see how or if you've managed your time as well. What else? Maybe I'll leave it at that for now. Welcome again to the course. Have a look around. Get as comfortable as you can, right? Right off the bat. If you see mistakes or things that aren't working correctly, let me know right away and I'll try to fix them right away, or we'll figure out what's going on. I don't want people to get hung up on technical issues that end up getting in the way of really the fun part of our class, which is creative writing. It's a great class. I love teaching it. I was a creative writing student myself, so I love taking these kinds of classes. And hopefully you'll be pleasantly surprised that even though you're taking this as an online class, it's going to duplicate a lot of that class, community, kind of sharing work feel that would happen in the face-to-face environment too. So hopefully that will be a pleasant surprise for most people. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Kind of a long announcement right off the bat, but hey, better than sitting for 50 minutes listening to me, right? Okay, if you have any questions, be in touch and I'll talk to everybody soon.